Hey there, welcome to another installment of the Thoughts On series, where I give you guys and gals my quick thoughts, condensed thoughts on a film that I love or don't love. I don't really do very often videos like that on films that I don't like, but really I make these videos every now and then because I've already uploaded a video on this channel where I'm really going crazy and talking about a film for over an hour. So I know some people probably don't want to listen to that or watch that. So for people who want to see my quick thoughts on something, here you go. And also, I thought it would be a perfect time to resurrect this series because I'm doing the Peter Weller marathon, and the next film on the list is RoboCop. So I thought it was a perfect title for this series. So yeah, RoboCop, the future of law enforcement. Part man, part machine, all cop. As you can see by my username, as you can see by the countless videos that I've done about RoboCop, and I'm definitely going to be doing more in the future, because I still need to do videos about the series, I still need to do one about Alpha Commando, I still need to do one about Prime Directives, so I still have plenty of stuff to talk about in terms of RoboCop. And I also want to do some more video game playthroughs and so on. But anyway, that's for another day and for another series of videos. But yeah, RoboCop means a lot to me. I love this character. This is my all-time favorite character, fictional or otherwise. And this is definitely, probably, yeah, definitely my favorite. My favorite RoboCop film, the first and the best film in the franchise. There's only one RoboCop. I'm not counting the 2014 remake. That's RoboCop. Get that shit out of my face. It doesn't deserve to be called RoboCop. It's RoboCop. We're talking about RoboCop, the 1987 kick-ass classic, which in my opinion is also a masterpiece of science fiction and one of the best science fiction films ever made. Yes, I mean it, right from the heart. One of the greatest science fiction films ever. And I'm not understating things here or overstating things. I totally believe it deserves that title. Deserves to be put in that stratosphere. Now, the film is directed by Paul Verhoeven. This was his first big film in terms of big hit, because before he had done a few films in his native land, in a few Dutch films, but he didn't really break out yet. He did Flesh and Blood, Rutger Hauer, which I don't mind, but it didn't do that well. And RoboCop was the movie that essentially made him a big household name. It also enabled him to be able to direct other classic films like Total Recall and Starship Troopers. And none of that would have been possible without RoboCop. Now, it had a budget of about $13 million, and all of it is on the screen. Robo Team did an amazing job with the suit design. The suit design is iconic. It's every bit as iconic as the Terminator endoskeleton. And the movie is a huge hit, made $53 million in the US box office. I think it was worldwide total. You adjust that to inflation, big hit, huge hit. Surprise hit, actually. And it was one of the many films in 1987 that were just awesome. I mean, you had Predator, you had The Running Man, you had RoboCop. And just the title itself just rolls off the tongue. I mean, RoboCop. I mean, that's just awesome. It's an awesome title. It's and it's an awesome film. So it's written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner. Edward Neumeier used to work at Universal Studios. He quit his job because it was a dead-end job, and he decided to write a screenplay. He was inspired by what he saw in Blade Runner, where there was a story about a cop hunting robots. He thought he could switch it around, make it about a robot cop. And I think he and Michael Miner were big fans of Judge Dredd. And they first tried to make a Judge Dredd movie, but they couldn't get the rights. So they decided the next best thing that they could do is make a original screenplay that's in the vein of Judge Dredd, but it isn't Judge Dredd. And that was RoboCop. They tried to ship it around to all different people, and every studio pretty much turned them down. It wasn't until after the success of The Terminator, which was a surprise success and a huge hit for Orion, where they were looking for other projects and other screenplays that were similar to The Terminator. They came across Michael Miner and Edward Normeyer's script for RoboCop, and they decided, okay, this might be a good one. They went through all these different other directors. A lot of them turned them down, including Alex Cox, who directed Repo Man. And eventually, Paul Verhoeven got involved, and he actually ended up putting his own personal stamp on the film. And that is one of the main reasons why the film finally got greenlit. And Ryan was thinking about making it, but they were not necessarily sure yet. Paul Verhoeven comes in, adds his personal touch to it. He becomes really passionate about the film and about making it. And then Orion forks out the cash, and the rest is history. Now, the film also features, of course, a wonderful cast. You have Peter Weller himself in his most iconic role as Alex Murphy, RoboCop. Nancy Allen as Officer Ann Lewis, who was a character that honestly was revolutionary for the time because there wasn't really a lot of female characters that were like this. She was just as much of a guy as everyone else. You know, she was as manly and masculine as all the other cops on the force. That was a different contrast. She was not cast for her good looks. She was not there to be a sex appeal. She was not there for that kind of thing. She was there to do her job, be a cop, and kick some ass. And that was very appealing to not only a lot of people who saw the film back in 1987, but to people who watch the film today. And she's not in the film a lot, but she makes enough of an impact. I mean, it's a very memorable character, and there's a reason why Ann Lewis is in the public lexicon. It's because it was a very revolutionary character for how women were portrayed on film. Dan O'Herlihy plays the old man. Ronny Cox plays the biggest dick ever as Dick Jones. Kurtwood Smith plays Clarence Boddicker, a villain that you love to hate. Every minute of screen time he's in, you love it. He's an asshole. He's a scumbag. He's a son of a bitch. He'll shoot you. He'll blow your knees out and blow you up with a grenade, but you still want to party with the guy. That's how great the performance is and how great that character is. Miguel Ferrer plays Bob Morton, who's another asshole, but he's not as big of an asshole as everyone else who works at OCP. He's likable. You know, you have those lines of dialogue he has, like, you're going to be one bad motherfucker. And also, it's a prime example of the uniqueness of Miguel Ferrer. If he gets the right role, he really does own it. And sadly, we're not going to see that type of performance anymore because Miguel Ferrer passed away fairly recently. I think like a week ago or a couple weeks ago, he passed away of cancer. And that's a real bummer. And I'm definitely going to be looking at his scene when he dies in a totally different way now when Bob gets cashed out because, you know, Miguel's no longer with us. And I definitely did I was like bummed out when that character died anyway. And now it's like, well, Miguel is gone. He's no longer with us anymore. So yeah, but I definitely got to say thanks for the wonderful performance in not only this film, but, you know, in other movies as well, Deep Star 6 and other films, The Night Flyer. So yeah, he definitely will be missed. So you also have Robert Dupuy as Sergeant Warren Reed, one of my favorite police chiefs or sergeants, you know, in any film. Ray Wise as Leon Nash. Felton Perry, he plays Donald Johnson. Paul McCrane, who was also in the Blob remake as Emil. He's the guy who literally becomes a melting man in the film. Jesse Goins plays Joe Cox. And you have Kelvin Jung, who plays Steve Min. He's the guy who goes in when RoboCop knocks the doors down before he busts the drug. You know, when he goes into the drug bust scene and starts gunning everybody down with his Auto 9. He's the guy who says, "Fuck you!" Yeah, the cast is just, like I said, it's wonderful. It's an amazing cast. So you have an already great screenplay, which is made even greater by Paul Verhoeven. And then you have a great cast that ends up bringing everything to a whole nother level. And in particular, Peter Weller definitely is the standout. Before this, he was in films like Buckaroo Banzai and Of Unknown Origin, and he just was not getting his recognition that he deserved from his performances in film, in films like that and Firstborn, and even in something like A Killing Affair. He was a consistently great actor in anything he was given, and he just never really had that big breakout role until RoboCop. And he put everything that he had into this. There were rumors that Ryan was maybe considering doing Arnold Schwarzenegger because of the Terminator and the huge success of that, but then they realized the suit would be too bulky and he looked like the Michelin Man. So they were trying to look for somebody who was more wiry, and Peter Weller really did fit that bill. Peter Weller, in my opinion, his performance as RoboCop in this is one of the most underrated acting performances of all time. It is unheralded, it is unbelievably underrated, and I don't think it gets enough credit because he had to act in this suit that was over 100 degrees. It was so hot that he was losing weight every day he was in it. Had to have a fan built into the thing. He could barely even see. He also had to act and emote with the lower half of his face. That's all he had. There was nothing else. And even when he took the helmet off, he had to create this illusion that he was more machine than man. And he did that. And then some. He was able to elicit emotions from the viewer with just a few movements and maybe just a glance or a certain way that he moved his body or a certain way that he was able to emote through all of this, all of the suit and everything. The scene where he's reminiscing about his past life when he's walking through his old home, it is just one of the most emotionally powerful scenes you will ever see. And in a lot of ways, it's not just because of course, the way it's directed and written, but Weller's performance. And also because of the score. I have to admit, the score by Basil Portodoros in that scene can elicit really powerful emotions just on its own. But it's Weller's performance that brings it to life, that really makes it resonate. So, yeah, unbelievably fantastic performance. Does not get enough credit. And I think he deserved an Oscar. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge fan of the film. I'm saying that because this is an extremely demanding and difficult role. And he made it look easy. And I think that's more impressive than any other performance that I'd seen by any actor in 1987. But, that's just my personal opinion. Now, the hero is great. I mean, RoboCop is an excellent hero. Great to look at. Great to see him in action with the Auto 9, gunning people down. But every great hero needs a great villain. And this film not only has one great villain, it has two. You have Clarence Boddicker. Just give me my fucking phone call. And you also have Dick Jones. You don't fuck with Dick Jones. So you have it's awesome enough that you have one good villain. You have two in this film. And you could even say, Morton might be a bad guy too, so maybe there's three. I mean, that's impressive. That's unheard of. You don't see that very often. That's very unique. I think that's pretty understated too, is how good the villains are in this. Even the supporting characters played by Ray Wise and Felton Perry and Paul McCrane and Jesse Goins and Calvin Jung, they all have a certain personality and charisma about them that it's just kind of fun to watch them be bad. It's not kind of fun, it is fun. It's extremely fun to watch them be bad. You also, of course, have the satire. Speaking of fun, the satire in this is just way ahead of its time and a lot of fun to watch. The Nukem board game, the 6000 SUX, the media break segments. This film is one of a kind. This is such a unique film, and it's such a hard film to get right. This is a very disjointed movie. It starts out without any opening credits. Starts out with a news break segment, and then it cuts into the story, and then every now and then it'll cut back to a random commercial or a random news break segment, and you would think that would not work, but it does here. It works to perfection, and that is a balance that is nearly impossible to pull off, and Paul Verhoeven and company managed to do that, and it's extremely commendable. So, And also, it's way ahead of its time when it comes to its story with the villains, the corporation, OCP, Omni Consumer Products, runs the cops. OCP runs the cops. OCP controls the government. This was a vision of the future in 1987, but this is reality today. We look at it. Look all around you. Look who our president is. Our president is corporation. Our president is the corporate guy. He might as well be Dick Jones. Dick Jones might as well be the president of the United States right now. So it was scary back then to imagine that the yuppies, with from the 80s, would all of a sudden end up controlling everything, running the United States. Well, that's reality now. OCP runs the United States. OCP runs the cops. OCP runs everything. OCP runs the White House. I mean, that's a very sobering reality. Detroit was chosen as the backdrop for the film, and they were talking about how the city would go bankrupt, and the city actually did go bankrupt a handful of years later. So that was a reality as well. Um, way ahead of its time with that. I mean, the whole corporate takeover aspect of the government and everything. So it definitely deserves a hand for that. You know, give the movie a hand. Give the man a hand. So yeah. And of course, so speaking of that kind of thing, the dialogue is just sparkling. It is just, there's so many great lines of dialogue. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. Your move, creep. You know, the stuff that RoboCop says, the fun stuff with Boddicker, you know, the whole thing where I love that scene where he's just talking about guns, that it's just like, guns, guns, guns! The Tigers are playing tonight! You can just tell that Kurtwood Smith is just having the time of his life playing this evil scumbag. And you love every minute of the film when he's on screen. To the point where you almost maybe didn't want him to die because you loved him so much. You know, it's a very hard dynamic to pull off, and this film just makes it look effortless. It really does, because you're like, oh, this is a total despicable human being. He's telling these women to leave, and he calls them bitches, but it comes across as awesome. It's just like, bitches leave. You're just like, yeah, leave, you bitches, get the fuck out of here. So you know, it's irreverent. It's total irreverence, and it really does have even more impact now in the era of the cult of outrage and the politically correct world that we live in. So it's just so refreshing to have characters like this who are just unapologetically evil and just assholes. And RoboCop definitely would not be as good as it is without the effects. I mean, not only the suit work by Rob Bottin, but you know, the makeup effects by Rob with the scene where Emil is melting, and from the toxic waste, the boardroom scene when Kenny gets pumped up with just tons of lead and blood starts spraying everywhere like a fountain. The scenes when Murphy gets gunned down, which is just absolutely, and that's another. This film is just chock full of extremely visually arresting and emotionally arresting sequences. You know, the scene where Murphy gets shot down, and the scene when he's in RoboCop form getting shot at by the police. I mean, these are all really powerful scenes. And a lot of, you know, the effects is a big part of that. And speaking of effects, you can't talk about the special effects without talking about Phil Tippett's really amazing and just one of a kind work with the Ed 209 with the stop motion. And it's another thing you don't see a lot of nowadays is stop motion effects. And I kind of miss that because there is a certain practicality there that you don't really have with CGI. You can tell that it was a real tangible item, and there was actual real material that you could hold and touch that was used to create these effects. The only problem I have with the effects is the one scene when Dick Jones's puppet falls out the window, but that's really very immaterial, like little tiny nitpick, and doesn't. For the most part, the effects are great, especially for $13 million. Most of the money went to the suit, and you can tell. And the score. The score, like I said before, the score is every bit as iconic as the film itself. I love this score. It is one of the best scores ever. I know I say that a lot. I've said a lot about the things in this movie, but it's true. This is one, and I think it's kind of underrated. When people talk about just fantastic, one of a kind, unique, spectacular, great film scores, a lot of people, they don't really talk about Basil Poledouris's score for RoboCop. I definitely do, because it's not only epic in scale when it needs to be, and it's effective when it's doing that, but it's also really effective when it needs to be somber, when it needs to create sadder and quieter and more, like I said, more somber emotions. And it's just a very robust score. And it's perfect, a robust score for RoboCop. And of course, the directing by Paul Verhoeven is visionary, and he's just such a great director when it comes to action and to creating a film that is just a powder keg, just throughout the whole movie. And the way he balances all the different elements of comedy with the action and the science fiction and with the drama. And yeah, I mean, everything about this film is something that is praiseworthy. Every single thing. That's how much of a classic and how great RoboCop is. So I really don't know what else to say. I mean, it's definitely a film that I would definitely buy for $1. I'd buy it for any price, really. I mean, I just recently bought it on Blu-ray, the unrated director's cut, which has the same features from the 2-disc special edition and has a remastered picture. So yeah, I mean, it's fucking RoboCop. It's the future of law enforcement. It's one of the seminal and one of the standout films of the 1980s, and it's a movie that will continue to stand the test of time as the years go by. And honestly, I think it's great enough that I don't think it will ever get old, and I don't think it will ever lose its impact or lose its audience. It's always going to be there because it's such a fucking amazing film. And I've said amazing so many times in this video, but it's true. It's so true when it comes to RoboCop. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to hear more of my thoughts on RoboCop and a little bit more in-depth thoughts, you can check out my review and retrospective on the film, which I'll put a link down below, as well as my other Why I Love RoboCop video. You can also stay tuned on my channel, because I will be uploading the first ever solo fan commentary with just me and the film on RoboCop. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, if you like the video, give the video a like. Enjoy what you're seeing here. Go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, if you haven't seen the film yet, go right out and see it. Buy it. Buy this fucking thing. Buy the movie. Don't just download RoboCop. Buy it. There's only one RoboCop. It's this. It's not the other one. Fuck that shit. It's a fucking classic. It's an amazing film. It's a fantastic movie. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's thought-provoking. It's a terrific action movie. So it's action-packed. It's got great science fiction elements, and it's tragic, and it's terrific. So all of these things just come together in just a one-of-a-kind, one-in-a-million type of film where every part is in the right place and every part works together to create just epic filmmaking and epic storytelling. So that's my thoughts on RoboCop. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. See ya.